There it goes. That's weird. It took me like 3 times to hit the record button to make it work. Odd. It's quite odd. I didn't understand at first. Zoom was taking its time to record. Come on, Zoom. Get your head in the game, as it were.
Exactly. Oh, I was going to show you this. If you don't have like a sleeve for your 3DS, this thing is amazing. It's like perfect. You can just, it's got like, try and get angle it to the camera here. See how this thing here, you could, it perfectly rests your fingers there.
No.
Oh, I love it, man.
No, I don't understand like these grips, and it's a big reason I don't like, use the Switch in handheld mode quite often. I don't understand these big grips and making these freaking portable systems 75 times larger than they need to be, because the whole good thing about having a good portable system is it's compact. I just put it in my pocket and walk around with it. Not a big deal. The 3DS, I have a 3DS XL. It's just the right size to where it's not too big to fit in my pocket. Something like that. No, I'm gonna have to walk around with this. No, I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. If I'm at home, I'm
don't
not
walk around with it. You
don't
play portable systems at home.
Not unless like that's the only way to play them. And for something like that, I just don't care because I'm just watching on my TV anyways. It's just a waste of money in my opinion.
Not if you got it from a garage sale. It came on my 3DS when I got it. I was like, I don't want this shit, until I held it and I was like, wow, this is very awesome, comfortable.
I will say that like the 3DS does get uncomfortable pretty quickly.
It does.
But I have no interest in buying any, so I just don't use it enough. And I certainly don't want to make it bigger when I'm trying to, travel with it. So
only you travel with your portable systems. Weirdo.
You don't travel with your portable systems?
No. Maybe sometimes. I don't travel, so that's my problem.
That would be why. Amazing. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pixel Perspective Podcast. My name is JJ, and I'm here with my good friend Adrian. Adrian, what's going on, man?
Recording a podcast, dude. Because that's what we do here on the PP Podcast.
That is what we do on the PP Podcast. Yep. All right, fair enough. Man, we're talking Chrono Trigger today. I'm freaking excited. You're not, because you're a jerk.
I am excited. I'm like overwhelmingly excited to talk about this game.
Down to the wire. I didn't think you were gonna beat it. I didn't think you were gonna get there. I was a little worried, and I was gonna give you crap about being 1 for 3 for finishing games for the show.
No, dude,
you're 2 for 3. So
I was committed. I was committed. I didn't finish all of these side quests there at the end, but I did finish the game.
Okay. All right. But before we get into that, what the hell have you been
playing? Chrono Trigger and Elden Ring, and that's kind of it. Elden Ring has been my obsession since that game came out like a month ago. And Chrono Trigger got in the way of that. And I think it swayed my opinion on the game, but we'll talk about that later. And I know you've been playing Elden Ring as well, so I mean we could touch on that a little bit.
I rolled credits. I'm done. Shoot,
man, you didn't play that game. You just like glazed over it. I played
70 hours of it.
You just glazed over it.
That's honestly, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of stuff I didn't do, but I put in 70 hours on that thing.
I've got 60 right now, and I'm not even close to beating it.
No, I was thinking about it today, and I was like, this is gonna sound so stupid and so ridiculous because I'm just gonna sound like an idiot. which is, par for the course for me. But I don't have fun with From Software games at all.
Really?
Like Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, I enjoy playing with you. I enjoy playing the co-op stuff and doing everything like that. But I look at it as like something that I need to get off my backlog and just be done with.
I could
just
tell.
to be like, I'm finished with this and done and over with it. I play the game. Don't get me wrong. I want to like clarify. Those games are spectacular. They're great. They're fantastic. Elden Ring is one of the best games I've ever played, like built wise. It's unbelievable. If you haven't tried it and you've never played a Souls game before or Souls-like game before, and you're looking to jump in somewhere, it is easily the most accessible out of all of them. It's probably the easiest that I've played so far. Just because of all the like training wheels they give you, the spirits that you can summon, and the abilities are like you can be so much more powerful than any of the Souls games, at least in my experience. It's just there's so much. It's still hard. Don't get me wrong; it's very tough, and that's why you see people left and right on Twitter, clamoring for an easy mode and everything like that. And just to kind of touch on that a little bit, I am all for an easy mode in those games because I love exploring those games for, seeing the world and being able to do it without worrying about dying every 2 seconds and bashing my head against the wall and everything. That being said, though, I don't mind that it is the way that it is because you can still, it's still beatable. It's still doable. You just have to spend a little more time learning and understanding how the game works. And once it clicks for you, I'm not going to say you steamroll through it, but it's definitely like, when you understand it, it becomes again a lot more accessible. So I'm fine with the way it is. You won't see me like bitching that there's no easy mode, but I totally understand why some people would want it because there is so much to appreciate there. And if you are somebody who doesn't want to bash your head against a wall over and over and over again to get to those really cool moments and see the scenery in the game and these vistas and explore these dungeons and just see these really cool monster designs, I get it, but anyways, I don't have fun playing those games. Like I was so relieved when it was finished. When I got the this was before everything got nerfed. Hoarfrost Stomp and Mimic Tear was my go-to. That's pretty much what I did for like the last like 4 required bosses to beat the game. And I steamrolled through the end because of it. Thank God. Because there's still so much more left in the game. And I even was like thinking to myself, like, I had fun when I started though, right? I had fun when I started and I had fun with some of the Souls games and I'm looking forward to eventually playing Bloodborne, right? And I broke it down in my head and I'm like, I'm looking forward to finishing Bloodborne. I don't know that I'm looking forward to having fun with it though. Like I'm looking forward to just knocking it off the list. Like, and seeing that it's an awe-inspiring game and that it's magnificent and really, really cool. But is it fun for me? No, none of these games have really been fun in that aspect. And I think that's such I wholeheartedly acknowledge how stupid that sounds because I finish them all and I go through them and I freaking like blitz through them and it's ridiculous. But I just don't have fun with these. Like, they're just not fun for me. They're not rewarding. They're just like, it's like looking at a really nice piece of artwork that I have no intention of buying or hanging up anywhere in my house. I just see it and appreciate it for what it is. But once I'm done looking at it, I'm like, okay, cool, got my fill, and I'm out. And that's it, if that makes sense at all.
The gameplay then is just not fun to you. But
No.
you like everything else about the games. You just don't like
Correct.
playing them.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Pretty much. But not enough to like make me want it because I don't want to like somebody could come here and just be like, well, just go watch a let's play. It's like, yeah, but then I'm like, it's not me exploring this world. Right. If I want to like, if I see somebody doing a let's play, especially in a game like Elden Ring, where you have so much freedom and you see him go into, you see them go into a dungeon and you're like, I would go left here, but they go right. And it's like, well, dang it, that's not what I would do. So you're not really, I'd rather still be in the driver's seat. That's why, again, I would be okay with an easy mode because then I could just explore the game and enjoy it at my leisure. Whether it would actually be fun for me at that point, I don't know. I still don't know. I doubt it. It's just a little too slow. And like when I want to experience the next big thing, when I want to experience the next huge, awesome, really cool monster design or see the next really cool cutscene, having to spend, you know, half an hour to 3 days on one boss just to get to that next part is not fun to me, and it's not rewarding. It's a relief when it's over. So that's what that comes down to. I again, one of my games of the year already. I will absolutely say that it's fantastic. I am not saying it's bad by any means. I'm just saying for me personally, I don't have fun when I'm playing it. So I know how stupid that sounds.
I mean, I don't know. I get not enjoying playing a game, but I don't see how you don't have fun with these games, considering that you've now played through 5 of them.
5. Yeah.
And it's those games, the gameplay, it's a beautiful game. I love everything about those games, but it's the gameplay that really I love. I want to take my time, soak it in, enjoy every second that I have with those games. And it's so much fun for me to slowly over time build my character and watch his progression and watch him get stronger, watch myself, you know, attempt a boss, not do well at this boss, and decide to go run around and try to do some other things, and then try to come back later on to see if I could take that boss on again.
Yeah.
Make a little bit more progression that time, maybe even beat that boss. And that it just, I've said it before, that sense of accomplishment is all that I want. It's the only thing that really keeps me going. And, you know, what you're saying, that all that rings true. Like, I understand, like, I knew that when you powered through the game so quickly. I say quickly because, yeah, even though you had 70 hours into it, that was 70 hours over what, like a 2-week span or something.
Yeah.
2 weeks. We started playing together, you, me, and Brody, and, you know, we were going at a pretty decent pace, and then all of a sudden, boom, JJ's beat the game. We're like, okay, Brody, so it's just you and I now.
I still have it installed on my machine. You guys need help with anything? I didn't go to the second, like, new game plus, so you guys need help with anything, you just let me know. I can hop on. I don't mind doing that. Well, I love, like I said, when I do have fun, it's because I'm playing with you guys or something like that. That is when it actually is fun to me, just because I'm dicking around with the boys. It's a fun time, but like the rest of it,
so
I was just ready to be done.
The way you feel about it is the way that I feel about Guild Wars. I don't enjoy playing that game at all.
That's completely understandable. I totally get that. No,
but I enjoy the hanging out, like getting in there. It's more the time that we get to just hang out and have a good time. And it's just something to do.
The difference there, though, is that, like, what you don't enjoy is something that is not really, like, I don't know that most people would enjoy that. It's mindless.
Yeah.
What I enjoy is being able to, like, put on a TV show or something like that and be able to just grind out some mindless stuff in the game. Like, being able to do, like, I feel like I'm still busy while I'm catching up on a show. My mind is like that. I've got to have some sort of distraction on both ends.
I can't do that.
So it's nice for me to be able to do that. Or if I'm with you guys and I'm talking to you guys while I'm playing, that's still the double distraction going on there. So I enjoy that mindlessness or whatever like that. The Dark Souls ain't mindless, or
no, it's not. It's you have to give that game your complete full attention at most points.
Elden Ring and the Souls games in general are typically for me, like, imagine you're on a road trip and you're going to Disney and you're super excited. You're like, hell yeah, I'm going to Disney. This is gonna be great. It's so cool. And you get to Disney and it's awesome and it blows your mind. It's so cool. And you're like, all right, now we're going to continue our road trip once Disney gets done. And you're driving to the Grand Canyon. And it's like, all right, we're going to play the license plate game 74 times before we get there. So we're just going to do that over and over again. Oh my God, this is starting to wear on me. And I just want to get there. I want to see the next cool thing. You get to the Grand Canyon. Oh my God, this is so awesome. This is so cool. I'm so freaking stoked that I'm here. This is awesome. It looks amazing. I can't believe it. All right, tomorrow we're going to Yellowstone. let's play the license plate game some more, 80 more times as we drive to Yellowstone, and you're doing this mundane crap that you don't want to freaking deal with, but you have to pay attention. Otherwise, things are going to get screwed up because you can't get sidetracked. And it's just, and then you finally get there, and it's like cool moment to cool moment, but in between is a bunch of bullshit that I just don't want to deal with.
That's so funny, man.
Ugh.
Well, you know this, but everybody else knows this as well.
Great,
yeah, I love this game.
It really is.
It's all I want to play, even after putting so much time into it. It's all I want to do.
Really is.
Hold on.
Understandable. One of the best games I ever played, hands down. And it gives me an idea for a video to do for my channel pretty soon. So I'm
tomorrow's April 1st.
It is. No, no, I'm not doing that. No, this is like legit. Like I have been thinking about do shorter games hold up better over time?
That's a good topic.
Yeah,
that's a good topic. Yeah, man. I'm like, and we'll get into this with Chrono Trigger, but my whole time, I think playing Chrono Trigger, all I wanted to do was play Elden Ring instead. And I think that has swayed my opinion on the game.
Sure.
I think it was just a bad time for me to play it. And I don't want to give away too much too early. But Elden Ring is just, it's such a massive game. I don't think I've played a game this large in scope ever. And I'm not just talking about the world, because the world is massive in and of itself, but all the secret areas and the bosses and everything that you encounter in that game is just, it's littered throughout the whole entire game. There's not very much time spent wandering around without bumping into something else brand new, and some other challenge that you need to eventually take on. And then getting into these castles and dungeons or whatever, and the castles are massive. They're like a Dark Souls style castle within this already massive open world game. It's incredible. It just blows me away what they were able to accomplish with this game. And it's for sure going to be something that I play for the rest of this year. However long it takes me to beat it, I am in no hurry. And all I want to do is play it. And when with the Dark Souls games and Bloodborne and things like that, I play those games repeatedly. Like I'll come back. Those are one of the few games that I go back to. And it's because I enjoy the gameplay so much. And even after seeing all these different sceneries and things like that, it still draws me in, and I still want to experience that again. And so having this game that basically gives me a seemingly endless world to explore, at least so far, that's all I want. That's all I want. I want to be able to finish this game and be like, you know what? I still don't feel like I've seen everything there is to see, and be able to go back in and just find it.
Well, now that we know that like some of the secret doors take like 20 hits to actually open.
Isn't that crazy? I saw that too. That's insane. This game is just, I bet you there's going to be secrets people are finding for years in this game. And that just is so incredible to me. Owen, what do you need? Owen wants to say something he's been standing here staring at me this whole time.
Okay.
Owen, you're going to have to stand up here, buddy, because go ahead.
Hi.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but my favorite game to play right now is Hyrule Warriors.
Oh, that's right. It is Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors. There you go.
Tell us
feel like
why you like it.
a pretty hardcore
I like
guy
all
in
the
that
characters.
Yeah. What's that?
I like all the characters.
So Owen is, I think I've mentioned this before. Owen is like I'm a physical collector. He's a digital collector. He wants to collect all the costumes or skins in Fortnite, and that's like his focus. He gets the Game Pass, or what's it called? Battle Pass. And he has to unlock all the characters. And then now with this Hyrule Warriors, how many characters can you unlock in that game?
Like 17, 18, 19.
A lot. So his goal now is to unlock all these characters. And that's what drives him in his gaming. And I think it's funny to watch him play. His focus, like his drive, is similar to mine, I guess. But in the digital mindset. So pretty cool.
Nice. Awesome.
All right, we're moving on. Say bye.
Bye 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 bye.
Bye.
He's been asking to get on here and talk forever. Now he has gotten
I was
his
gonna say,
chance.
I bet that makes you feel like a badass, but I wasn't sure if that was too much.
No, not at all. He is not desensitized to, or he is.
I guess that's true. I've
desensitized.
heard you guys like I've been on headsets with you guys, and yeah, you guys don't hold back when he's around. Yeah.
No. Hey, there are words he's going to be using eventually anyway. I don't.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Anything? Well,
yeah.
that's all I've been playing. Is there anything you want to talk about? I know you've got a couple games in there you've been playing.
Yeah, I finished a few. I finished Elden Ring. I finished Chrono Trigger, which we'll talk about in a bit. Elden Ring we just talked about. I am still working on Guild Wars 2. I hit max level. Brian and I are going. He boosted a character and got that character up to the same story part as me, so we're going to start running through it together, which has been a lot of fun. And I finished Arc the Lad 2 finally. That's only my third game off of my list of 20 for the year. At this
You
point
chose all
last year,
these-
I was at like 12.
You chose all
well,
these long ass games though.
I did, but at the same time, it hasn't been that. It's more been than I've been playing new stuff, because this year just has so much that I don't want to skip or like put off. Like I still really want to play Kirby too. And I'm like super excited, but that's one that I'm holding back on. But Arc the Lad 2 is kind of the big reason I want to make that video. And once I do, I will talk about a little more there. But that game took me about 70 hours to do. And that's a PS1 game that is like, man, it's good, but it's just so long, and it drags on for so long. I have been working on that game for about a month and a half. And considering, with Elden Ring, it took me 2 weeks, if that, to get through 70 hours. Month and a half on this other game is just like insane for me.
I don't think I'd have the patience for that.
I was at like 59 hours and I was heading towards the end of the game, and you can't really grind because there's not enough like strong enemies for you to fight to where you'll keep getting experience. Like once you hit like a certain level, like level 70 to 75 ish, you'll fight some enemies that are higher than you after that in the final dungeon. But the final dungeon closes behind you, so you can't go back. So you have to make a separate save if you want to. And B, they don't respawn. So once you kill enemies there, you're done. And I went through the final dungeon, took me about 4 hours, and got to the end boss. And it's an endurance fight. And I did not have the supplies, nor the levels, nor was doing 10,000 hit points. I was doing about 50 damage a turn, if that. Wow. Like in some cases 20 to 30. So I was like, this is insane and bullshit, and I'm not doing this. This is freaking. I was so angry because I lost all that playtime and everything like that. So I loaded my old save from before, looked online. I found a really, like, I'm gonna say cheap way to level up, but it still took time. Like I still put about 10 hours into leveling up.
Whoa.
Because it's it's pretty much the only way you can do it at that point. Did it. I went in, I beat the whole freaking thing in like half hour. It was nothing once I grinded that much and got that experience. But I'll go over my experience with that a little bit more in the video. But I overall do not feel that longer games hold up better over time, or hold up as good as shorter games over time, because I don't want to spend that much time on an older game. I don't want to get lost in an older game. It's just not, it doesn't happen very often. I'm not saying it's impossible and that it can happen. I'm just saying it doesn't happen very often. Anyway, so I finished that and I was super excited. Thank God it's done, because I was just ready to be finished with it. And Arc the Lad 3, I'll probably play next year. But I have been playing a game that I am obsessed with right now, and that is Project Triangle Strategy on the Switch. I love this game so much. It's so good. I am like so invested in the story and the characters, and not like anything super crazy has even happened yet, but just the setup and the political intrigue and the gameplay. There's not a lot of battles in it. Like there's some like grinding you can do where they kind of called there's some kind of mock battles where they like basically like you just can do them over and over again. They're kind of practice things, but they get you experience and take the experience and money back and whatnot. But a lot of the gameplay is walking around towns, gathering information, learning about the world, and kind of getting insight into how people feel about politics and the way things are run in their country, and how you feel that, you know, you want to, as a new lord, want to start running things on your end, and how to, you know, do diplomacy with these other nations and everything like that. And it's like one of the first towns you come to, countries you come to, they're like, they all they do is they talk about like, we give everybody all the freedom they want. You know, we have laws and you can't break those laws, but you're free to seize any opportunity that you want. You have freedom of choice and opportunity, and anything you want can be yours as long as you work for it. So you're like, oh, that, you know, that sounds great, absolutely. And not to get like too overly political on how I feel about real life, but like, it kind of mirrors real life a little bit, in that you go there and you start walking around, you're like, there's a hell of a lot of poor people here. Holy crap. And that's because the rich people have been basically taking advantage of, they've been free to take advantage of all the other people, and like basically demonize them by like giving them false hope for opportunities they can never actually achieve. And then when those poor people are forced into doing things that they, you know, have to do to survive, like stealing and that kind of thing, and they demonize them even more and push them down even more and say like, you're horrible people because you didn't work for it like I did, when all of those rich people did was get born into it. Anyways, but it's like, it's just really, really cool. And there's another city where like, so one of the big themes in the game is like salt, the resource, is the most valuable thing in the world, but it only comes from one place in the entire world called the Source. And it's from this massive city in the desert that is run by religious zealots. They do trade with everybody else, but you can imagine that obviously causes quite like a strain on relationships and that kind of thing. And it, like, the whole game takes place after this massive war over the salt. And there's just so much like meat in the lore and the text, and I just love it. It's amazing. And I'm just having an absolute blast just learning about everything and kind of getting into it, which again is another thing I didn't get with Elden Ring. I realized that a lot of people love the lore and the story in that game and everything. 70 hours with it, I couldn't tell you a thing about any of it. I have no idea. I don't have any interest digging into it. I didn't have any interest in listening to the characters because everything was so vague. You really have to like go looking and go out of your way to do stuff, and I just don't like that. Like, just tell me what's going on, give it to me. It's all I want. Anyways, but Triangle Strategy has been an absolute blast. I can't wait to dig in more. Again, like you said with Chrono Trigger and Elden Ring, that's how I've been feeling with Triangle Strategy. Is I've been like, I'm playing Chrono Trigger and I'm like, even part of me was like, I could just stop. I've beaten this game like 7 times already. Like, why am I doing this? Come on. But I was like, no, I committed. I said I would. And it's good to get a refresher before Radical Dreamers and then Chrono Cross. But now that I finished it, and I've been, back on Triangle Strategy, and I'm on the 4th chapter, and I'm just loving it like so much right now. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy Tactics, Game of Thrones, Octopath Traveler, got a little bit of all those in there, and it's great. The class system and the combat aren't as deep as like Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's basic and it's easy to understand. It's really, really easy to jump in and just wrap your head around what's going on. It's tough, but it's not like impossible. You do have to think a little bit. There's a little bit of chess aspect to it. But I am enjoying the hell out of it, and I highly recommend it to anybody who is curious about that game, for sure.
That would be me. I'm holding off because I really want to be able to give it the time that it deserves with understanding the story. Based upon what I played in the demo so far, it's very, like JJ said, it's very heavy on story, but the story is complex because you have a lot of different characters, a lot of different towns and things that are.
One of the cool things about it, I forgot to mention this. So like while you're reading the dialogue and listening to characters talk, the voice acting is not very good, by the way. I've seen
It's
like
kinda
mixed
cheesy.
reactions.
Yeah.
It's very much like they speak like they should have an English accent with some characters and they don't. So it's really like kind of weird. Like, let's go to ye old tavern. And it's like, why, what? But it's, you know, it's a minor gripe. It's stupid. Most of the voice acting honestly is fine. It's serviceable and everything like that. There's just a few that jump out where I'm just kind of like, why are you talking like that guy? But one of the cool things about it is anybody who's ever read the Game of Thrones books, one of the things that they do in those books that you need is in the back, you flip it to the back and there is literally a list of every single character and location. And you can give yourself a quick refresher. So if you're like reading and it mentions a name, because there's, you know, thousands of names in those books, you just flip to the back of the book really quick and you'd be like, oh, that's who that is. This person's related to that person, you know, whatever. I think you give yourself a quick reminder. Triangle Strategy does the same thing in that anytime a character is talking that is like a named character at any part of the story, you just push X and it brings up a little box saying, this character is blah 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 blah, and this is what his history is. Well, like
that's good to know.
You know, paragraph bio on who they are. You can do that at any point. So, like, I'm 4 chapters in, I can still check out the main characters and see what, just in case I forgot something.
Right.
It's really really neat that they do that. I like it a lot.
That is neat. That it would be helpful to. It's
nice
for me. I tend to like grand stories like that. They're not appealing to me. I like mine to be a little bit more easy to follow. And I don't know, when you start throwing a bunch of characters and all kinds of things and names that don't mean anything to me, it's hard for me to I lose connection really, really quick.
Right. I'm the same way.
And and then I don't, if I have to do homework or have to do research to try to help myself understand, I'm out most of the time. Like Game of Thrones is a good example. I watched the first few episodes and I was super confused about what was going on. I was like, I don't care. And I got out of it. And then everybody's like, it's a great show. It's so good. It's not for me. It's just, it's too much.
Why do you hate good things? I don't understand. I'm just so confused as to what your aversion
I love
to good things is. That's clearly not.
Says the person who just complained about Elden Ring for the first.
I just said it wasn't fun. I still said it was one of my games of the year. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Should we go back and roll the tape? Because I did.
You didn't have fun playing it.
True.
I'm correct.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I really do want to play Triangle Strategy though. And I think that if I can just have a moment of time to be able to devote to the story, I really do think I could get into it. Just simply because it reminds me of Final Fantasy Tactics so much, and Tactics is still one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And I would love to get back into that.
You'll feel right at home with some of the combat. Like I said, it's nowhere near as like complex because every character is kind of locked into their own job. It's more like Fire Emblem in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's still like, it's so good. I'm enjoying the absolute hell out of it. And I really like I have been doing everything I can to avoid spoilers and any sort of guides at all, because the choices you make and even the things you discover have an effect on where your characters are going to go next and who they're going to recruit to their party and how the story is going to unfold, because you're trying to like sway people to go along with your decisions and stuff like that. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And it's all about like gathering that information and knowing as much as you can and kind of figuring out the best course of action. And sometimes you might be right, sometimes you might be wrong. Either way, the story is going to move forward. And I love that. So there's a lot of replayability in there too.
That's cool. Yeah. I like games like that.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, let's get into our topic for this show, which would be Chrono Trigger. So let's start things out here by giving a little bit of history from you on this game, and then I'll tell my history with it after you.
So anybody who knows me knows my channel, knows Super Nintendo is like where I spent most of my younger years. Even when the PlayStation came out, I still had my Super Nintendo hooked up. And Nintendo 64. I still had my Super Nintendo hooked up. I still played it all the time because I loved Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 2, or 2 and 3, 4 and 6. And like Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore, all those classic games. I, being a Nintendo Power subscriber at the time, also had heard about Chrono Trigger and seen it and thought it looked really pretty and thought it sounded cool, like you're traveling through time and recruiting these neat looking characters. And I love the sprite work because I was a Dragon Ball fan and Akira Toriyama. So I was like, I had wanted to try it, but I could never ever find it like anywhere. Then I happened to get lucky one day at Funko Land. It's GameStop now over by me, but I went in and I was just asking if they possibly had a copy of it there, and the guy goes, "We do. We have one." I was like, "Oh my god!" And it was used game, no instruction manual, just the cartridge only. $80.
Whoa.
And this was back then. Yeah, even then, it was a super expensive game. So I bought it, and I was like, I don't care. I've heard so many amazing things. I'm getting this game. So I bought it, brought it home, played it, and I mean, I was hooked from the get-go. I love it. I still love it to this day. It's one that it's like comfort food for me. It's one of those, along with games like Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy 6 and stuff, that I can go back to over and over again and never get tired of, and feel happy just by playing it. It's great. So, yeah.
So for me, I had never even heard of Chrono Trigger until Chrono Cross. And reason being is I never had a Super Nintendo. And the Super Nintendos that I did play were at friends' houses, and they were usually like Mario Kart and multiplayer games like that. Never got to experience any of those single player games. And in fact, I don't even think any of my friends had any RPGs. So when Chrono Cross was taking pre-orders, or I think it was Funko Land too, or it may have been Babbage's where I was. They were taking pre-orders for Chrono Cross, and I was super interested in that game. I thought it looked beautiful just from the marketing material that they showed. And I remember the guy telling me about how it was a sequel to Chrono Trigger, and I was like, okay, I don't know what Chrono Trigger is.
Cool.
So,
thanks.
and this is kind of, it's not pre-internet, but it's before the time when you would instinctively get online and try to look for more information on something.
Yeah.
So I still had nothing to go on. I just knew that this was a sequel to that game. And I did go back and look at some magazines and try to understand what the game was, but I don't think I ever really saw the game until many years later online, after I'd played Chrono Cross, and I loved it and everything. So my experience with the game was non-existent pretty much up until probably 15 years ago.
So then, since you weren't like since you hadn't played Chrono Trigger or heard of it, much less heard of it at that point, were you not aware of all the the backlash from Chrono Cross coming out?
I
was. It wasn't a
was.
true sequel. Oh, okay.
I was. I did read in some magazines and stuff, and actually later on online in forums and things, that people weren't happy with the game, and I loved the game, but I didn't have that precursor or that thing to sway my opinion. And I even still, I still wanted to see what the differences were and why people were so in love with Chrono Trigger, but not Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross was notoriously, back then, it was a crapped on game. It had people loved it, but I'd say most people didn't like it because it wasn't a sequel to Chrono Trigger.
Right.
And I could see that. And I don't know, well, let me back up here. So I started playing Chrono Trigger about 15 years ago, and I don't remember how I played it. Maybe it was on an emulator or something, but I got about, I don't know, a third of the way through the game and quit playing it. And I've always wanted to go back and finish it. And I'm glad that we're got to do it on the show so I could go back and actually give the game some time to dig in.
Yeah.
But after finishing it, yeah, it's a totally different game from Chrono Cross. It really is. But I think that's okay. It doesn't need to be like a true sequel. I don't think it needs, and I think people were really wanting a true sequel to Chrono Trigger, because now after having finished Chrono Trigger and gotten one of the endings, it kind of leaves it open for a sequel. Like it doesn't end with like, this is final, everything's done. It ends with, hey, we could still build upon this later if we want to. And Chrono Cross doesn't really build on it in any way or any noticeable way. So I could totally see the disappointment there.
Yep.
But Chrono Trigger is I don't know. Before I get into any kind of negatives, tell me what you love about the game.
So, I mean, it's gonna sound stupid, but everything.
Yeah.
I love the story. I love being able to go through all these time periods, getting to see the world at different points in time, and having things in one affect something in another one. No matter how subtle, no matter how like even so much as like leaving a treasure chest and then being able to go back later on during later time period, picking it up and finding that item and then being like, oh, and then going back again and then getting that one and doubling up on the reward. Even that kind of stuff was kind of neat. But like the quests with Lean and rescuing Marley and like the simple stuff about how like she disappears because her ancestor wasn't getting rescued because they thought she was her, and like you have to go and rescue her then yourselves because that'll actually restore the timeline again. And it's just the fun stuff like that, and learning that Ayla is Marley's distant ancestor. Like it's just
I didn't know
crazy.
that. I missed that.
Yeah, they say that in the ending.
Well, I missed it. I didn't catch that at all.
Typical.
And I guess with you saying that, we should go ahead and preface by saying this is a full-on spoiler talk. So
it's been out for so long. Like I mean,
Yeah.
And it's not even like, it's not a super deep story by any means. It's just super neat. It's just a fun adventure. You're like the main story is just you're killing this big alien that is destroying the world.
Yeah,
that's about it. Did you recruit Magus or did you fight him?
No, I recruited him.
Oh, okay.
I don't like Magus though. I think he's a dickhead.
Hey, well, he definitely is a dickhead. He was a bad guy for most of the game.
Yeah.
But you kind of like when you learn his true intentions and everything like that, it's like, oh, well, you're still a dick, but
yeah,
okay, come on along with us, whatever. I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Even at the end of the game, whenever everybody's going home and going through the portal, and I forget who was talking to him. Somebody asked him a question. He just steps into the portal, disappears, doesn't even acknowledge at all. It's like, you're such an asshole.
Yeah. Yep. But the cast of characters in general is a big reason I love the game. I've said this so many times on my channel. I love diversity. It's a big reason I love the Breath of Fire games. Because there's so many different like races and different personalities and stuff like that. This game, you've got a cave woman, a frog, a robot, a freaking inventor, a princess, a dude, and then you get a freaking wizard. Like it's just so cool. It's just so neat, and they're all from different time periods, and they're all helping each other, and they become like a family throughout the game, and just having these experiences that are so much fun. And I love the sprite work. I love the graphics on it. Like I said, Akira Toriyama, I pretty much like anything that he does. And these are like, this was originally supposed to be a PS1 game. And you can kind of tell that because looking at the graphics, it does look like a higher end Super Nintendo game. Like it's definitely game. late in the cycle. It's just so good. For granted, you have to really also look at it like from that time period. You have to be able to put yourself back in that time, pun intended with the game. But you really have to kind of put yourself into that mindset of the mid '90s, playing this Super Nintendo game, for the first time, because you're not going to find anything super new if it's a game you haven't played before now. It's you know, you look at it and be like, this has all been done 1,000 times over. Back then though, this was mind-blowing, and it still holds up in my opinion as a wonderful experience. It's also not that long. I finished in 15 hours. I was done. Which honestly I think is probably the longest it's taken me to finish. I just love it. I love everything about it. It's great.
So I'm looking at this from that perspective as well. Like knowing, I think this game was, and this is a term that gets thrown around all the time, but I truly think this is a game that was ahead of its time. Playing it now, it just, everything about it, like it tries to do so much. And with the storytelling, with the graphics, the animation, the music, the time travel, the, you know, being able to affect different time periods, like you mentioned before, that stuff is so intricate and detailed. It's not really, I think it's very unique for the time frame that it came out. Now, granted, it did come out at the end of the Super Nintendo's life cycle, but the fact that they were able to even pull that off on the Super Nintendo console, I think is a feat in and of itself. The game is incredible. It really is. The animations and the art style is also like, how in the world it is, in my opinion, it is the most beautiful looking Super Nintendo game, hands down.
Especially if you're playing it on the DS now with the cutscenes, and the anime cutscenes in there. They're really, really cool.
The cutscenes are a really nice touch. I enjoyed those. But like the vibrant colors, every character, like if you play Super Mario World, for instance, Mario moves and he has just a few frames of animation for all of his different move sets. And that's kind of the way that most Super Nintendo games are, you know, but not this game. Like every character has such detailed animations, and they give off so many different emotions and effects and things that you don't typically see, and they're not limited to a few frames at all, and that really helps to bring life to these characters, and I really appreciated that. The game is just, it's a marvel to play even today. I think it's not many games can pull off that style. I think, you know, they do these pixel art games today, and I'm not drawn to those. I don't think they're that good looking.
I think they're you know, I think they can still look beautiful, and like Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, I think those games look gorgeous. But I agree, I'm typically not like, if I have a newer game, I kind of do tend to actually lean towards the more like either realism or like a super polished style, rather than like looking for like some kind of old school like restoration kind of thing. It just doesn't hit me the same way. Like I love the way Final Fantasy VI looks. When I see those graphics in that game, it hits me right in the feels. But if you were to make a new game with those exact graphics, I would look at it and be like, yeah, okay, another one of these. That's it. So as weird as that sounds.
Yeah. It's so cool. Like I already love Akira Toriyama's art. I think he's an incredible, unique artist. You know his style. Like anything you see, it's immediately recognizable. And that shows through even in this pixel art, which I think is super cool. That they were able to pull that off. The character designs, like one of the things that stuck out to me the most, well, you got these little alien looking guys, and they look like the little guys from Dragon Ball with the green heads, the big round green heads. They're kicking the ball around. You have to fight them quite often. And then when you go to Magus's castle and he's got that dragon sitting up on top of it, or gargoyle, or whatever it is, that's so Akira Toriyama. Like it bleeds his style. I love
Even
it.
Chrono looks just like a redheaded Goku.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the music, man, I know we've talked about the music in this game before, but I knew of the Chrono Trigger music and I liked it, but now I could safely say I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It fits that game so perfectly. I don't know how he was able to pull that off so well. And I'm
Yasunori
saying
Mitsuda
he because
works himself to the bone when he does games. Yeah.
And I've seen some documentaries or things where they talk about that, but it's so true. Like everything is matches perfectly. Like the main theme of the game is a great game. I can't help but hum it every time it comes on. And that goes for most tracks in the game. The first few areas are awesome, and I love listening to those music. But I would say, and I've texted you about this, my favorite track, well, not my favorite, but one of my favorite tracks is the airship theme. Whenever you get up into the epoch for the first time and you're able to fly it around, that song comes on immediately. And like I would just get on the epoch just to hear that song, and it captures the emotion and the feeling of flying high in the sky in this flying machine, and it really captures that emotion, I guess. Like I don't know what I'm looking for.
It's kind of funny, much like how you mentioned Akira Toriyama and his artwork are very, very recognizable. Like you can always tell, like if that's him right there. Absolutely, that is exactly how it is with Yasunori Mitsuda and his music. Yeah, if I hear it, I can hear his style. You don't even have to tell me it's him. I just know. Funny enough, that is the one thing that I do like Chrono Cross better for, though, is the music. I like the music in Chrono Cross better than I do Chrono Trigger, which is an unpopular opinion. Most people like Chrono Trigger better.
I would agree with your opinion.
I think Chrono Cross takes it for music, for me at least. But everything else, I absolutely prefer Chrono Trigger. But I love Chrono Cross too. It's still a great game. But yeah,
I think Chrono Cross has more memorable songs than Chrono Trigger does. Chrono Trigger has some really good memorable songs, but there's a lot of songs in there that were just kind of, I don't want to say generic, but they didn't really resonate with me.
Sure.
On the same level. But I mean, for the ones that did though, they more than resonated with me. I want to listen to them, I like today at work, yesterday, I had the OST going on, listening to that while I'm working. It's just something about it, just so calming and nice and pleasant. I just gets me in the mood to get stuff done. But I really liked that aspect. I really like the time travel aspect. But there are some things that I didn't like. And this game was hard for me to get through. I appreciate that it's a short game because you beat it in 15. I think it took me about 22 hours or so to beat it. And there was
a lot of that for me, just because I've done it so many times. It's just repetition at this point.
Yeah.
Like you and I, even when you were still early in the game, you would say like, oh, I think I'm about to do this. I'd be like, oh, okay, next you're going to be doing this and this, and make sure you're doing this and blah, blah. And I would just rattle that off, because I knew it off the top of my head, because I've just, it's almost muscle memory for me at this point, especially the early parts of the game.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, like, I enjoy these characters. I enjoy their backstories. I enjoyed listening, or not listening, but getting to know Marl or Marley.
I think it is Marl. I just like the way Marley sounds better.
Well, and they have a Marley in Chrono Cross. So I guess I call her Marl just to have some distinction there for me. It's just, when you find out, when she gets sucked into the past and she comes to find out she looks just like the princess from the past, and you are trying to help her out, and then in turn you get in trouble with the law, I guess, and they're going to sentence you to death, and all that was really cool.
Were you guilty or not?
Yeah, I was found guilty. Can you not be?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
I did not know that. Yeah, oh yeah, they were.
I am like at this point, like if I think the first time I played it, I was found guilty. Because you see items to interact with, you just want to interact with them, you just do it out of habit because that's what video games make you do.
Yeah.
Now I know all the triggers, so I'm always like, I'm not guilty. I'm not doing this. I know not to touch the picnic basket. I know to bring the cat back to the little girl. I know not to freaking talk to or pick up the pendant before I talk to Marl. I know that I shouldn't freaking try to sell it to the lady. I know that I shouldn't move when she asks me while she's waiting for looking at the candy, like all that stuff. It's off the top of my head. I just know it.
So I did all of those things. So I was like 100% guilty.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in escaping the prison and fighting the mechanical dragon was all cool. And then like going
it ends
in
up the same way. Either way, you still get thrown in jail.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. It's just a cool little scene that, either way.
You move on from that to the future and you get to know Robo a little bit. Robo, I think, to me, was a weak character. I know that you like him. And I know
I agree with you. I think he's probably the weakest character out of all of them.
Okay.
I do like him for sure. And I think like there's some heartwarming moments with him, like where he's learning like human emotions and that kind of thing and that kind of stuff, but it's all like very, very like kind of boilerplate, like just surface level, nothing super deep about it. It's just like Robo can love, like one, that he doesn't actually say that, but I mean he's very much like, Luca, you taught me so much and thank you for doing this and blah blah blah. And like when he has to like fight his old girlfriend and his friends beat the crap out of him and stuff like that, there's some like gut-wrenching moments in there.
That was cool.
I think compared to some of the other characters, I think it's just because he gets the least amount of screen time compared to some of the other ones. So it is what it is.
He did not resonate with me much at all. His storyline, like at the very beginning when he was getting beat up, that did resonate with me, and I did want to help him out. But then after that, it's just kind of like, okay, that's it. And then there's some other stuff that happens later on, but I didn't at that point. I wasn't attached to the character enough to care. But
so did you do the one with him where he restores the forest?
I did not. No.
So that's actually a pretty cool scene too. Like after you leave him there, like you can see him on the world map, like plowing the fields and stuff like that as you're like, flying around or walking around that area, which is kind of neat. Then you go forward in the future 400 years, and there's a forest, a complete forest, and there's a shrine in the middle of it, and there's people like at this shrine like who have been like basically taking care of Robo's body. And so you go in and he's all like, rusted and beat up and like laying up against the back of the church, but they've all been like saying like, this guy helped us. He helped, bring this land back to life and everything like that. So you go and you have to restore him. And, oh, so you didn't do the thing with Luca then, did you? Oh my God, you missed so much. Cause that opens up the scene with Luca where you basically determine whether her mom becomes paralyzed for the rest of her life.
Oh, I missed that.
You get done and it like, so Luca restores Robo and then Robo's talking to her and that kind of stuff. And he's like, do you have anything in your life that you regret or moments that like, stick with you? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it and stuff like that. And it kind of moves on. She goes into her own time gate in this scene by herself, and it brings her back in time to her house. And earlier on in the game, there is a point where you go to her house and you see her mom just sitting in a chair. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm-mm.
So you talk to her dad and everything like that. And the house is like an inventor house. It's got a whole bunch of like books and mechanical crap all over the place and everything.
Yeah.
And you see her mom just sitting in a chair. You don't really think anything of it. At this point though, in this scene later on, you go back in time with just her. She goes into the house and she's like, oh God, this is that day. And you walk around a little bit throughout her house and you can find little hints on notes. And one of the notes says like the password to shut off the machine is the name of my beloved's name or something like that, meaning Luca's mom, because it's her dad that wrote it. And you come out in the main hall and Luca's mom is there and she's like, gosh, this place is so cluttered and dirty. And all of a sudden this machine gets kicked on and her dress gets caught in it and she starts slowly getting dragged into the machine. and you have like 5 seconds to find the off switch and type in the correct password. If you don't do that, she becomes paralyzed. And you think back and you're like, holy shit, that's why she was sitting in that chair. That's why she didn't move. That's why she didn't get up. Like, because she's been paralyzed this whole time. And you find out that's what had happened. But if you're able to save her, you can come back later on and you can see her sitting in the chair again, but then she'll be like, oh, I've got things to do. And she'll get up and start walking around. And so it's like little stuff like that. And it's like, it's one of those moments I honestly like. Every time I've played the game, I have had to redo that part because it's such a short little time window you have to save her. And the password is Lara. That's her name, Lara. So you have to type in Lara on the controller in order to be able to save her. I am almost never fast enough to do it. And so I made sure to save before it happened this time, and I was able to save her and stuff like that. But it's yeah, I mean, that's a really, really impactful and cool scene. No matter how you play it, to be honest with you. And then you get some cool, a cool weapon and stuff for her. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff with the side quests in there.
I do. I have saved, so I kind of do want to go back and play those areas that I missed, because I did, in order to finish the game on time for us to do the podcast, I had to skip a lot of the optional quests there at the end. That one is one of those. And usually
so you didn't do the fight with Robo's girlfriend. Yeah.
No. I didn't. There was, I looked in the guide though, and I know that there's basically a side quest for each character in the game, or each one of the playable characters. And the only one that I did was Ayla. And the only reason I did hers because it was super short and there really wasn't much to it.
Did you get Chrono back?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I mean, that's technically a side quest too. You don't have to do that. That's one of the endings if you just leave him dead.
Yeah, I saw that too. And no, I wanted to bring him back. And although I don't know, so all those things were really cool. I enjoyed Frog's story was awesome too. I loved hearing about what happened with him and why he is a frog, and why Magus is such an asshole. And so, I don't know how, like, I wouldn't have chosen to recruit Magus if I didn't want to see how he operates in battle. Let's just say.
Actually, if you didn't recruit Magus and you fought him and beat him, then at the end, Frog would actually get changed back into a human.
I saw that in the guide I was reading, and man, I was tempted. I was very tempted to just go ahead and fight him, but I was like, no, this is my first time to play it. I want to see like what his skill sets are. He's just
really magic heavy. His physical attacks are decent too. He does about as much as Robo, I think.
I noticed, like, after I recruited him though, it's just I used him a few times. I'm like, okay, I prefer my other characters, and I let him go. So I hadn't used him ever since. So I probably could have just fought him. I don't like him. He's a cool looking character.
So I got everybody's double and triple and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. He's a cool looking character. He's just such an asshole that I really don't want to have anything to do with him. But Frog's story was cool. There was something kind of weird about Frog's story. You have to get the Masamune, and so I'm thinking like this is going to be his ultimate weapon. You know, we have to go through all these steps to get it. Well, no, I have it for about one dungeon or two, and then he gets something else that's stronger.
You didn't do all the side quests though.
Do you get it back? Do you make it stronger later? Okay, that makes more sense. But for me, it didn't happen that way. It's just like I quickly was able to find other swords that were stronger than it, so I never used it again.
Yeah, it becomes way more powerful.
Well, shoot, I should have known that. There was who else? It's funny. I don't think Ayla's story was very interesting at all, but she was one of my favorite characters only because she is such a badass. Like she is so strong. She was my strongest character throughout most of the game. Probably all the way through the game, actually. No, I had her in my party the whole time. I never took her out of my party.
The only time she's not useful is against enemies that are like
weak to magic
damage. Yeah,
because she only does physical attacks. But if you have Chrono in your party, you do that thunder chomp or whatever it's called. That thing, dude, I beat the game using just that attack. I relied heavily on that attack.
Cube toss
And
with her and Marley is really good as well.
I never used. So I used Marley quite a bit in the beginning of the game, but after I got Ayla, I sat her out.
Who's your healer, Frog?
It was Ayla and Frog. I would use both of them. They both have healing spells. They're not great healing spells,
Ayla just
but
has
they were
one
enough.
though. I think Frog has two.
Well, Ayla has the kiss where you combine with Frog. It's
Yeah,
like
the
the
dual tech.
slurp
Yeah,
kiss.
yeah.
I used that when I needed
Gross.
to. Otherwise, I would just use the heal ability that Frog had that heals
Yeah.
everybody. But even later on in the game, I started using Robo, and Robo also has a heal spell that works really well.
His is what I would use because his multi heal is better than Frog's.
It is, yeah. But I like Frog better. I think the party that I used majority of the game was Chrono, Frog, and Ayla. I did use Robo there at the end, but I still had Ayla and Chrono. But yeah, I enjoyed everybody's stories. Chrono, though, and I know they're going for the silent protagonist thing, but I think it worked against. I don't think it worked well in this game. And the reason being is like I had zero attachment to Chrono. Zero. Like I didn't know anything of his backstory. He never said anything. He was just a vessel for
He lived with his mom and he has a
stories.
cat. That's his backstory.
It was, and then whenever the pivotal moment towards the end of the game, whenever he dies, I'm like, so what? I don't care. I have zero compassion or attachment to this character. But I wanted to bring him back because he is a pretty versatile in combat. Like I need him for combat.
It's one of those where I think the intent was to make you feel like you are Chrono, and anything that he is feeling, that's how you're feeling. If that makes sense, or how you're feeling is how he's feeling. No, I'm not saying it works or it doesn't work. It just I think that was the original intent. I've never I know some people that swear by Chrono and say he's like the greatest character ever. I mean, I think he's fine. I agree with you in that I think the rest of the cast is really what stands out to me more so. Like Ayla and Frog.
I think if they had killed off one of the other characters, I would have had a stronger feel for it. Like Morrow. If they would have killed off Morrow, I think I would have had a lot more attachment. Did they? I'm trying to remember now.
Beginning. This is the first time you go back in time.
Refresh me. That was a while ago.
Refresh my memory. That's the first thing you do when you go back in time, because she goes back first and they're like, our queen is here, but it's actually her. Yeah. That's because the queen had been kidnapped. Because they found her, they were like, we don't need to go searching for the queen anymore. So they called off the search.
Right.
And so that's where she's like, oh my God, it feels like I'm being ripped apart. And then she disappears. And then you have to go rescue her ancestor. And that's what brings her back.
Wow. I totally forgot about all that. I remember the switch and everything, but I don't remember her being torn apart. Huh. Well, it's
good to know you paid attention to the game, Adrian. Thanks.
Yeah, cool. Man.
Can't wait to play Chrono Cross with you. It's awesome. Yeah.
You know how many nights I played this game, like doing this stuff, like you gotta stay up. I gotta get further, you know.
That's because you wait till the last minute.
I did not. I played this game all the way through when we first started it. And I would play it most nights.
Said you did about 22 hours. How many of those hours were in the last week?
Probably about
half.
6.
No, so a third of the hours in the last week?
Yeah.
Almost a fourth.
I had like 15 hours last week when I started like really pumping in it. But I don't know, man. It's the game. So you're saying like Elden Ring and the Souls games in general are just not fun for you to play, but you enjoy everything else about it. Is exactly how I feel about Chrono Trigger. I just didn't feel like it was fun to play. It was the going around and talking to people, and in most RPGs it works for me, but in this one,
it's playing a Super Nintendo RPG.
Yeah, like they would just the whatever dialogue options or whatever they would say didn't really stick with me, I guess.
Sure.
And I couldn't really follow what was going on. On top of that, I almost had to have a guide to play this game because I never knew where to go next. Like I would go and do something and it'd be like, crap, okay, this is done. Where am I supposed to go? Like you have all these options of different time periods that you can go to and different areas that you can go to, but it was never made clear to me where I needed to go next. And that was a huge
honestly,
frustration.
it's quite frankly a lot more clear than a lot of the games of the time. Because back then a lot of those games were just really bad about hand holding and that kind of thing. I will say it's very, very subtle in this game as far as where you need to go next and that kind of thing. There, you'll get like it's like Dragon Quest in that way almost, because it'll be like one line from some random person that gives you a hint on where to go next, and you have to kind of like follow these tiny breadcrumbs from point A to point B. And after playing it, 7-8 times like I have now, those are a lot more prevalent, and I can totally like see them a lot clearer. Because I see that and I'm like, oh yeah, this is next. That's right. Okay. Because I just talked to the guy, but I can absolutely see that on a first time playthrough, like not really making the connection on where to go next and having it be so subtle that you miss it and kind of glaze over it. I totally get that. So yeah.
Well, and then you can't, like, if it's in dialogue somewhere, if you miss just that little piece of dialogue that hints at where you need to go next, then it won't happen again because I'll try to talk to them again and they'll say something different and not give me that hint that I needed. So it's that mixed with not understanding the time periods. And I understood them for the most part, but every time I went back to the end of time and tried to figure out where I'm supposed to go next, I would have to go to each one of those portals, click on it, see, oh wait, nope, this is not the one, go to the next one. I wish they were labeled in some sort of way.
Speaking of which, there is a really easy way to now that you mentioned that, just because I haven't had to do it in a long time, but I do remember this now. There is actually a really easy way to figure out where you're supposed to go next. The old man at the end of the time, every time you're about to go to the next story point, you just talk to him. He'll tell you exactly where to go.
I didn't catch on to that, or I guess maybe I didn't talk to him.
I haven't used it in so long, but I completely forgot. But yeah, you talk to him and he'll kind of point you in the right direction. Yep.
So going to the end of time, I was confused about, what was it, 1000 AD? There's two of them.
Yeah,
and one of them,
the world.
See, I didn't catch that onto that. You had to tell me that. And that always confused me. And even when I was looking at the guide, it would say, go to 1000 AD. Okay, which 1000 AD? There's one with lizard people and there's one with humans. So
yeah, which
time frame is it? I always thought it was two separate time frames, like a split time, I guess. Mm-mm. And so I never made the connection that they were actually to the same time, same world, just different parts of the world. And so once I figured that out, or once you told me that, it made things a little bit more clear for me. But having to go to a portal in a specific place on a map and remember where that portal is in order to get back to the edge of time or end of time and go to the next area was always
totally understandable.
I never got used to that. It was always a pain in the ass. But these are all, most of these complaints are just a game of its time. That's just how the games were back then. And they worked because you didn't have anything better. But I played games that make your quality of life while playing it much better. And so I guess it's those things that are annoyances more than anything.
They're spoiled these days. They don't have it like they don't have it like we had it. It's crazy.
Well, I'm one of them, apparently, with this Chrono Trigger, because those were my main complaints. But also, like, I felt like the dungeons were tiny. Most of them were pretty tiny.
Sure.
And you would go through, you would already know what to expect. You see enemies on the map and they, all that's cool. And I like the battle system, not having to switch to a different screen. That was all cool. But knowing that, I'm going to go to this portal and I'm going to have to fight these guys again because they're going to bombard me, even though I'm going to one-shot them.
There are a few that you can run past and skip if you know where to run specifically.
Yeah, I was able to run past a few of them, but
Yeah,
there was always one or two that would jump me, and I'm like, man, come on, I'm trying to go somewhere. But the battle system in general, I think, was difficult. I had it set on active originally, and so I was trying to get really quick with my action inputs.
Yeah,
and I ended up going in there and changing it to wait, which helped tremendously.
it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because with active, if you're not fast enough with choosing your move, the enemy is still going to continuously attack you.
Yeah.
But with wait, you at least have a chance to figure out or hunt on the menu what attack you want to do.
Yeah.
But also, like, I felt like there was too many bosses and too many annoying bosses. The bosses weren't straightforward. Like, each one of them had some certain weakness that you had to exploit before you could do damage on them. Not all of them were that way, but a good chunk of them were.
Sure.
And those were always really annoying. Like the dragon guy in the cave that you have to weaken with lightning before you can actually attack him. And then he'll discharge the lightning and it does massive damage to all your characters. Yeah. And then Magus was super annoying when I got to him. It took me a few tries to beat him because he changes his elemental weakness or whatever. And if you don't have a character that has the proper magic attack to be able to take him down, then it's incredibly annoying. But I found, like, at the end of the game, though, a lot of the bosses were generally weak to that thunder crunch that I was talking about. So that's why I used that.
Yeah.
But
if you get Luminaire, though, which is Chrono's ultimate ability,
yeah,
that is probably like better than anything else you can cast or use. And then your Ayla's free to combine with somebody else, which just makes it even easier.
I noticed that the Luminaire, at least with some of the bosses that I fought at the end of the game, would heal the boss. So I stopped using it. I didn't use it as much as I probably should have.
Yeah, because there's only like one or two instances where that does that. Everything else, it's like I was doing about 2,500 damage plus.
Okay.
Every time I use that. Yeah.
I was doing probably like 2,200 damage with that Thunder Crunch. So I relied on that pretty heavily. In fact, at the end of the game, most of the bosses were me hitting them with Thunder Crunch and then Robo healing whenever I needed it. And I would just leave him. I wouldn't even make him attack because Ayla and Chrono, their speed was so high that, and his was so slow that if I got hit by a powerful attack, and I would have to wait for his bar to charge up and they might hit me again and kill one of my characters. So I just kept him active.
You can do the side quests, man.
Yeah.
You do the side quest for like Robo and Luca and stuff like that, and they get stat boosts.
Okay.
To their speed and everything like that. Yeah, it's
worth
it. There's some cool stuff in there.
Another major annoyance for me was the final chapter, or not the final, but second to final chapter. When you're going through that, when you fly into that big mountain thing, I forget what it's called.
The Black Omen?
The Black Omen. When you fly into the Black Omen.
That if you want.
I know, but I wanted to play through it. I had to see what it was all
Fair
about.
enough.
And man,
good to get the experience anyway.
That's true. That took forever going through that damn thing.
Yeah,
it was
when you look at how short the other dungeons in the game are, and then you do that one, and it's like, ugh. Yeah.
It was super annoying. There were so many bosses that you had to fight throughout that. All the while, the regular enemies were basically bosses. A lot of them were basically bosses in and of themselves because they were so tough. But yeah, getting through that Black Omen was a pain. And Lavos was pretty much a pushover after that. Like, he did not give me a hard time at all. I killed him really easily. Excuse me. Even with his two ultimate forms or whatever at the end of the game after you go into the husk.
Yeah.
I didn't have any issues with those at all. But I don't know, like, I know you gave me a hard time earlier when I said I wasn't really having fun with it. And that's just it. Like I felt like I needed to get through it. It's identical to what you were saying. I just felt like I needed to get through it, but I wasn't really having fun with it. And if it wasn't for us wanting to talk about it on the show, I don't think I would have finished this game. I got about halfway through and it wasn't doing anything for me. Like none of the story was progressing, it seemed. It felt like I was just going from point A to point B, doing a dungeon, fighting a boss, going to the next thing. Nothing was progressing fast enough for me to keep my interest. And all the negative things, such as the constant battles and everything, and the boss battles, were working against me liking the game. That I don't know. I just felt like it was a chore more than anything.
Quick disclaimer: the Pixel Perspective podcast does not share the views and opinions provided by Adrian on one of the greatest games ever made. Thank you.
But just like you say, Elden Ring is a masterpiece, game of the year, all that stuff. I have those same feelings for Chrono Trigger. I really do. I think it's a fantastic game. Just this day and age, me playing it, having played other games that were better on the quality of life. Also having Elden Ring. Yeah, it also having Elden Ring being the game that I want to play. If I didn't have another game that I really wanted to play right now, I think I would have been more lenient on my patience with it, basically. Because that's what it is. It's just having patience with old systems, dated systems. And and I don't have the nostalgia factor for it at all.
Did you finish Mother 3? Random question.
No, see, I had to stop playing Mother 3 to play Chrono Trigger and Elden Ring. Mother 3 does not have that problem with me. Like I know there's tons of battles and stuff in Mother 3, but the storyline is so intriguing and it keeps me pulled in the entire time. I love Mother 3. I love Earthbound. I love Mother 3. Those are two games that are basically dated now, and they have systems that are super annoying, especially Earthbound. Earthbound's inventory system and everything is super annoying.
Oh, it's garbage. Yeah.
But I loved Earthbound and I am loving Mother 3. And it's just, I don't know why it's more attractive to me than Chrono Trigger was. I think it's a very unique storyline. Sure. Chrono Trigger is it's got the time travel stuff, but it's got all the generic tropes. It has all of them. We talked about the robot. We got a big beast that is sucking the life force, and we gotta kill that thing. We've got the princess who is related to another princess. I see that so many times in RPGs, like Xenogears. It reminded me of Xenogears. A lot of things actually. Yeah, a lot of things reminded me of Xenogears in this game, actually. But it just had all the generic tropes, and when you've seen it before and you've seen it so many times before, it's harder for me to stay connected to it.
It's hard. It's not easy to put yourself back into a mid-90s mindset.
Exactly.
Playing these games, especially if you've played a bajillion other ones since. Yeah, no, it's understandable.
I guarantee you, had I played this game back when it came out, it totally would be one of my favorite games of all time. There's no doubt about that. I see everything good about it that I enjoy now. Yeah, it's just playing it for the first time now has a totally different. I have a totally different perspective on things. But that being said, like what I was saying about Mother 3 and Earthbound, the storylines and everything are super unique, even for the time. And it's not stuff that you've seen before, and it keeps you drawn in. It keeps you wanting to see what's going to happen next. They're not you're not able to see what's going to come next, basically. That's what, yeah. But yeah, everything else though works amazingly well. Everything does. It's an amazing game. I highly recommend for anybody to check it out. Even if you've never experienced, it's definitely a game worth experiencing, especially if you appreciate music and graphics in a game. Because
I would venture to guess that most people our age who grew up with the Super Nintendo and especially grew up with RPGs have more than likely played this game already and are probably screaming at you now.
Probably. Oh, I got an earful of it, or on Twitter.
You got a couple, yeah. But I completely understand. It's not something everybody can do with so many other distractions. And like I said, I think it would be even worse if the game was super long. Like, so that was what, 30 years ago that it came out?
Yeah.
Almost?
Yeah, man.
And think about it, 30 years from now, people are still going to talk about how great Elden Ring was today.
Yeah.
But somebody who's, maybe 15, 20 years old at that time, if they are recommended to go play Elden Ring 30 years from now, they're going to play it and be like, this is cool, but I'm not spending 100, 150 hours. There's no fucking way. There's so much better stuff out there right now that I can play. And that's, one of the reasons I want to bring up the videos, because I think a game like Chrono Trigger that is short and sweet, that has these memorable characters and all that stuff, holds up way better over time, rather than something that is just massively open and like super deep and is brand new. Because it's a lot easier to digest something older if it's condensed,
right? And I totally 100% appreciate the length of this game. I think it was a good length for me, for sure. But it's nice to be able to go and experience these games that are notoriously known as classics in a system that I missed out on. And I'm glad that I got to try it and check it out and know what people are talking about now. And I'm also excited to be able to use this going into Radical Dreamers and Chrono Cross to see if I can make any connections there. That would be fun.
The main connection. I don't know like what the connection is with Radical Dreamers. Supposedly there's a better bridge between the two games, but Luca is referenced in Chrono Cross.
I know they had
like she opened up an orphanage or something.
Yeah.
There's a picture of her, I think, in there.
Also, the three demons from Trigger slash, what was it? Ozzy
and Flea. Yeah.
Flea. Yeah, that's exciting, but it's also, I'm glad to be able to go back and finish those, because I have a list of Super Nintendo games that I want to go back to, and Final Fantasy VI is one of those as well, that I've heard so much. I mean, you're one of them. Like, over the years, I've heard so many people talk about how much they love Final Fantasy VI.
My favorite game of all time. So yeah, I definitely love it.
and all those diehard Final Fantasy VI people that say they love it more than 7, it's like, I got to see why. I have to see why. And one of these days, maybe it's for the podcast, we play through that and talk through it.
7 is a better game, but 6 is just means so much more to me. Right. That's what, where it comes from. And so I don't think you're going to like 6 more than 7, but I think 6 is still a wonderful, wonderful experience to have, much like Chrono Trigger. So.
I would agree. Like, even though I have my problems with Chrono Trigger, it's still a game that I'm super thankful that I stuck it out and played through.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. You got anything else?
I'm thinking here, like, I don't think so. I think we pretty much exhausted it. I've given my reasons for not liking it to help justify my thought process here. So
I think I think most people, I would assume, can understand that it's tough to fall in love with a game from 30 years ago,
right,
when you don't have that nostalgia involved. You're coming at it with fresh eyes. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's all about I totally perspective. Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Yeah,
I'm totally open and willing to play an old game, but you say that you can try to put your headspace into that time frame, but it's easier said than done.
Easier said than done. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yep.
So, I have nothing more to add. I am excited to play Chrono Cross, though. I do have nostalgia for that game, so
I'm going to finish Triangle Strategy first, and then I'm probably going to try and knock one of my shorter games off the list, maybe the original Metroid.
There you go,
and get that knocked out, and then I will dive into Chrono Cross, because I mean, if we're not doing Chrono Cross for 2 months, so I have plenty of time to get through that next month. next month, we are going to talk Nintendo. We're going to do our top 5 Nintendo consoles and just have a Nintendo episode. So I'm super stoked for that.
Nintendo is always fun to talk about. I'm excited
might surprise some people with my list, but we'll see. Yeah, super stoked.
Yeah.
Got anything you want to plug? New YouTube videos you've been working on?
Man, no, I give up at this point. I
Wow.
really wanted to keep up with that, but it's impossible for me. It really is. I barely have time to play video games, let alone make videos and try to do that stuff. It's, my life is too hectic. One day maybe, but I do want to put up more videos, and I will put up more videos, but there's not going to be any kind of schedule to that. You'll be
I don't
surprised.
think anybody needs you to have a schedule. So
or like I'm gonna stop saying I'm gonna do this many videos a month, or I'm gonna do this, or be looking for this. Screw it. I'm not even gonna do that anymore. It's just like a video will go up
if
when
you get one, you're welcome.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Yeah. If you want to watch the video version of this, it is on YouTube on the channel Game Room Revival. If you can find all of our links there, Twitter links. Feel free to shoot us a message, talk games with us, anything you want to do. More than welcome to leave a comment. Let us know what you think of Chrono Trigger. Tell us why Adrian is wrong about it not being one of the greatest games of all time.
Digging my hole right now.
Looking forward to talking Nintendo next month, and then getting into I've been wanting to replay Chrono Cross for years.
Me too.
Years. So I'm really excited to get back into that, because I really, as much crap as it took when it first came out, and we'll get into this obviously that episode, but as much crap as it took when it came out, I still really enjoyed the hell out of it. I didn't care that it wasn't a direct sequel. So it is what it is. All right. Well, with that, this is the Pixel Perspective signing off. My name is JJ.
I'm Adrian.
And as always, what should they do?
Keep on gaming.